Doesn't cover it.
Senate's out of recess. The question is the adoption of Floor Amendment 1993S. Further discussion. You ready for the question? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, I want to make it clear to everybody, you don't spend any more money. Departments are having a very difficult time filling vacancies. They're having a very difficult time. This gives them an opportunity to fill a position and never exceed their appropriation. Never exceed that appropriation. Now, we do it for 2 or 3 departments now, but it seems to me DES needs this, other departments need this flexibility. Our workforce has been compressed. We have a very difficult time filling these vacancies. This at least gives them an opportunity to get the work done that they're responsible for. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator D'Alessandro. The question is the adoption of Floor Amendment 1993S. You ready for the question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Noes have it. You defeated Floor Amendment 1993. The bill is still on second reading and open for further amendments. Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer Amendment 1994S. And can speak to you while it's being passed out. This is agreements on the lease purchase of vehicles and equipment that's authorized. What this does is it says that the state agency or the department is authorized with the prior written approval of the Department of Admin Services to enter into agreements to rent, lease, or lease purchase vehicles from any outside vendor or to rent or lease vehicles and equipment from any other state agency or department. The only thing that it does do is it allows you to do this, and you don't have to go to governor and council. And the rationale is because of the time sequence, the time holdup. You go to admin services, but you don't have to go to governor and council. And I did this specifically to DOT because it gives them an opportunity to get their equipment in a timely manner, and they need that equipment basically because of reasons that I've stated before. Most of their equipment is beyond the length of service. You got that from the LBA audit, and they're going to need to do this in order to function properly. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, guys. And you know, I don't want to hear any more no's. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Senator D'Alessandro. Senator Little.
I must. Thank you, sir. I rise. I'm sorry, once again.
I expect it.
To ask you not to support this amendment for a very simple reason. The language in House Bill 2 is the same language that was in the 2013 discussion. It's been boilerplate for quite some time. And I just don't believe that it's appropriate for us to use this language to sidestep the important role of governor and council in management of the state. They meet every other Wednesday. So we're not talking a long time between meetings for them to come in and to discuss issues. But there's one really serious issue, I think, with this, and that's it deals with lease issues only. So, if you want to purchase $25,000 worth of computers for your department, you must go to governor and council to get permission. If you want to lease $2.5 million worth of computers for your department, you don't go to governor and council. I think there's something really wrong with that. It turns things around, and so please don't support this amendment. I'm sorry.
Senator Feltus to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this amendment. The reason I support this is in part based on a visit I had to the DOT shed in Henniker. And they talk specifically about this type of flexibility in their ability to lease and buy and use equipment. And I think it's perfectly appropriate to give our state employees that type of flexibility. They're working hard, and that's why I support it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Feltus. Senator JEANIE. Question of
Senator Phelps.
Senator Phelps.
Senator, are you aware that a recent DOT lease purchase agreement that went through governor and council, because it went through governor and council, they actually saved $130,000?
I'm not familiar with that item. Thank you, Senator.
Further discussion on Floor Amendment 1994 F. You ready for the question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
The noes have it. The amendment is defeated. The bill is still on second reading and open for further amendments. Senator Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to offer floor amendment 2043S. 2043S removes section 243 through 249 of HB2, the budget busting fiscal year responsible tax cuts. And we heard a lot today, Mr. President, about things we can't afford. Can't afford a state employee's contract, can't afford Medicaid expansion, can't afford to fully fund the mental health settlement. But what we can't afford, Mr. President, is fiscally irresponsible tax cuts to big corporations at the expense of everyone else. Mr. President, I'd like to correct the record from my good friend from District 3 earlier today, who said that the cost of these tax cuts is $14 million. That's incorrect. In this biennium, the cost of these tax cuts is $23.2 million. $23.2 million. I'll read from a letter from the Department of Revenue Administration. Quote, the estimated fiscal impact for FY16 and the reduction in business tax revenue totaling $3.8 million for parents. Note, the impact in FY16 is the result of adjustments that are likely to occur with the first two business tax estimate payments for tax year 2016, which are due in FY16. The estimated fiscal impact for FY17 and the reduction in business tax revenue totaling $19.4 million. So $19.4 million plus $3.8 million is $23.2 million, which is more than $14 million, which is why I say budget busting, Mr. President, because we can't afford them. And we've been talking all session about living within our means. But these tax cuts make it impossible to live within our means. And it's not just in this biennium, Mr. President. My good friend from District 3 failed to mention earlier that in the next biennium, the estimated cost of these tax cuts is $66.2 million. And in the biennium after that, the estimated cost of these tax cuts is over $90 million each biennium. That's because there's 6 tax cuts here. The BPT and the BET, 2 taxes are each cut 3 times. So fully phased in, it's $90 million roughly estimated in each biennium. So who gets the benefit of these tax cuts? According to the Department of Revenue Administration, 76% of the estimated reduced business profits tax revenue will likely benefit 1.1% of business entities. Again, 76% of the BPT revenue, the cost of it, goes to 1.1% of the businesses. What about the BET, which is currently 0.75%? 49% of the reduction in BET revenue would likely benefit 1.2% of business entities. That's 49% of the reduction in the BET revenue would likely only benefit 1.2% of the business entities. Mr. President, as we talked about before, New Hampshire is ranked 7th best in the nation. 7th best in the nation by the Right of Center Nonprofit Tax Foundation, our overall business tax policy climate. Overall business tax policy climate. And that's up from 8th the year before. Now, My good friend from District 3 says, well, these are just a down payment on the economy. What it is a down payment on fiscal irresponsibility. And we can't afford these tax cuts, especially if we can't afford state employees contracts, Medicaid expansion, mental health, substance misuse, municipal bridges, and the list goes on. So, Mr. President and my colleagues, I respectfully request that you approve floor amendment 2043S. Thank you very much.
Senator Bryan.
Thank you very much. I obviously rise in opposition to my good friend's floor amendment. I just have to say that we're both appropriately attired, you with a dark blue tie and me with a dark red tie. So given that,
Purple.
I'm not colorblind, it's red. I would argue that we can't afford not to do this. We have the 48th highest corporate taxes in the country. It's increasingly an impediment. We keep hearing that these tax cuts are for big out-of-state corporations. You sort of kept on that theme, that it's only going to a small number of those corporations. But the fact of the matter is they employ most of the people in New Hampshire. And they have subsidiaries in many areas of the country that are increasingly becoming more attractive for job growth than New Hampshire. There was just a recent study by the Pew Foundation that said over the last several years, since the end of the Great Recession, that we've had the 10th worst job growth in the nation. Now, if that's not a priority for you for fixing it, then I think we're going to continue to stagnate, and my view is that we have to do something about that. Now, you and I have teamed up on trying to lower electric rates. God bless you for that. We've teamed up trying to lower workers' comp costs. Same thing. I've worked with the former member who sat in your seat before to lower health care costs. This is the last one that we've got to take on. We have got to take it on because we're a high-cost state. We can't afford not to do this. Now, I use the estimates that were given to us by the LBA. They may be updated by DRA. That's all right. But if we can't not afford $28 million for the North Country, I say to my friend from Concord, we can't not afford, whether it's $14 or $23 million, we can't not afford to do it. It's the same situation that your friend from Nashua and I dealt with when we had to deal with a net operating loss. We were among the worst, not only in the region, we were terrible in the region, but we were one of the worst in the country. We fixed it. It's helped our economy, and we need to do the same thing today. So I know there's an argument that we're not funding a lot of other needs, but as I said before when I spoke on the budget, the sum total of the amendments that have been presented by your side today have totaled at least $82 million. You can't spend $24 million and get it to $82 million. Now, I'm not the best person in math like my good friend from Manchester, but I know that $24 million is less than a third of 82. And if we're talking about budget busting, that's the budget busting. So let's fund our priorities, which we've done in this budget, and let's make a down payment on what has to be a priority. The things that you and I have worked on, lower electric, lower workers' comp, lower health care costs. Now it's time to recognize that high taxes are a problem. And I know there's been a lot of talk about big out-of-state corporations. I have a letter here from the National Federation of Independent Businesses. They represent small businesses, as we all know. And let me just read one paragraph of this letter. The reduction of the business profits and business enterprise tax will ease the burden of starting, continuing, or expanding a business during this challenging economy. The reduction of these taxes will serve as a strong signal of good faith to current and potential small business entrepreneurs that legislators have taken action on one of the many hurdles they face on a daily basis. And you know, I read this letter, I think, boy, it's a nice day in June, and when we last debated this was in February, and the snow was a mountain high, and guess what? Hadn't changed. I recently had the opportunity to go to the High Tech Council dinner. They represent 230 member companies, small, growing, entrepreneurial businesses throughout our state. They put on a great dinner where they made awards to different companies that had created jobs in the state and were growing. And I cited what they said before. I'm happy to read it again. I don't think I need to. Because the fact of the matter is, not only do the business community want these taxes, they need these tax cuts. And we have got to find a way to balance our priorities and make this as much a priority with these tax cuts as you find the state employee health raise, or other people find the DD funding for the DD waitlist, or Meals on Wheels, or any of those other things that I think we've talked about today that are important. These are just as important if we're going to have a growing, vibrant economy. So I urge support of the tax cuts and rejection of the amendment.
Senator Sanborn with a question.
For my fine friends in District 15.
Senator Phelps?
Senator Phelps, how are you today?
I'm good.
Fantastic.
That was an easy one.
Follow up. So my good friend from Concord, I hear you say words like budget busting and fiscally irresponsible and tax cuts for big corporations and how bad this is, but it makes me question, Senator, because I'm trying to reconcile how this fine work that was done on Senate Bill 1 and Senate Bill 2 is being so overshadowed by the fine tax cuts to the same companies that you were sponsor of in Senate Bill 201 and Senate Bill 217 that will cost upwards of $10 million a year, $20 million in the budget. So, Senator, help me understand why the tax cuts you've been advocating for and this body passed on a roll call vote, 23-0, and a voice vote on the other one, at the same amount of money as this tax cut for SB1 and SB2, why this one is bad but that one is good.
Thank you, Senator Sanborn, for the question. I think one of the bills was Senator Stiles' bill is tax credit. I think the fiscal note said indeterminable, I believe. And I'm not sure the other bill you're referencing.
The two I'm referencing at this point is the investment tax credit for the CDFA and the job creation tax credit. That combined with the fiscal notes is over $8 million a year.
Well, you know what, I think that if you want to invest in the economy, you invest directly into fact-specific, economically proven investments, like the CDFA. So I support the CDFA. CDFA helps move our economy forward with affordable housing, with jobs, with workforce development. The thing about that, Senator Sanborn, is that that's proven. You know, the tax cuts that we're talking about right now for largely big corporations, it's not proven. It's a tax giveaway without any guarantee of jobs in return. So if you want to do a tax giveaway without any jobs in return, go ahead and vote this amendment down. Thank you, Senator Sanborn.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Berthold with a question now.
The good senator from District 3.
Senator Bradley.
Thank you, Senator Brown, for taking my question. Is it not true, just as in my towns of Hampshire, Wyndham, and Gary, the majority of the businesses are small to medium businesses in my district? Is that not true of the rest of the state?
Well, I think that's why I read the letter from NFIB. I mean, they are National Federation of Independent Businesses. They are the voice of small businesses in New Hampshire. And obviously, I think the passage I read cites the fact that, along with other things, I mean, as I've cited, healthcare costs, workers' comp, electricity rates, there are a lot of forces driving making New Hampshire uncompetitive. Why we're ranked 10th most anemic for job growth since the end of the Great Recession. We can't become members of the Flat Earth Society and bury our heads in the sand and say this isn't a problem. It's a problem. And this is a down payment measure to help jumpstart our economy. It's going to take some time. It's going to take 7 years to fully phase in. But at that point in time, we will just barely be below Massachusetts' 8% rate on the corporate tax.
Oh,
So these small to medium businesses will benefit from these.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody, unless you have a threshold, I believe, of under $200,000, pays a business enterprise tax. So the reduction in Senate Bill 2, good Senator from Bedford's bill, will benefit virtually every employer in the state of New Hampshire. The corporate tax is a little bit different, but many of the large employers, yes, they may not be located in New Hampshire for their corporate headquarters, but their workers sure are here, and that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about jobs, and if you're concerned about jobs, as I know you are, you'll be joining me in voting against this amendment.
any further discussion on the question of adopting floor amendment 2043S? You ready for the question?
Roll call.
Second.
Roll call has been requested by Senator Susie, seconded by Senator Sanborn. The question is on the adoption of floor amendment 2043. You ready for the question? If you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, say no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Senator Woodburn?
Yes.
Senator Forrester?
No.
Senator Bradley?
No.
Senator Waters?
Yes.
Senator Pierce?
Yes.
Senator Cataldo?
No.
Senator Hosmer?
Yes.
Senator Little?
No.
Senator Sanborn?
No.
Senator Kelly?
Yes.
Senator Daniels?
No.
Senator Avard?
No.
Senator Lasky? Yes. Senator Carson?
No.
Senator Feltes?
Yes.
Senator Booton?
No.
Senator Reagan?
No.
Senator Susie?
Yes.
Senator Birdsell?
No.
Senator D'Alessandro?
Yes.
Senator Fuller Clark?
Yes.
Senator Prescott?
No.
Senator Stiles?
No.
Senator Morse?
Floor amendment 2043 is defeated 10-14. The bill is still on second reading and open for further amendments. Senator Feltes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise off for floor amendment 2068S. And I'll talk about the mechanics of the amendment in a second, but this is with respect to full-day kindergarten. Mr. President, if we're serious about expanding opportunities for everyone, we have to be serious about investing in full-day kindergarten. Right now, the state only provides half of the adequacy for full-day kindergarten for both charter schools that provide full-day kindergarten and district schools that provide full-day kindergarten. Only half of the adequacy that it gives to any other grade. I don't think kindergarten, Mr. President, is half as important as every other grade. And a couple months ago, this Senate passed Senate Bill 228. Tabled it. Section 3 of Senate Bill 228 provides full adequacy for full-day kindergarten. And it wasn't included in the budget, but it's important to take a step in the right direction, Mr. President, to support full-day kindergarten. And we have working families all across our districts who are unable to send their kids oftentimes to private schools and spend time with their kids after part day kindergarten. We ought to support the working families, and we ought to support the school districts and the charter schools that provide full-day kindergarten, not treat them as half as important. And, you know, Mr. President, in terms of the mechanics of this amendment, line 1 amends the bill by deleting section 198. Section 198 provides for $36 additional in charter school per pupil adequacy in FY16 and $250 per student in FY17, and has a CPI adjustment moving forward. Now, in the Senate Finance Committee, it was determined that there was some $2 million that could be invested. I believe the best investment we can make in education right now, if there's a couple extra $1 million in this biennium, Mr. President, is to invest in full-day kindergarten and not treat it as half as important. You know, in many ways, in many studies, including in Robert Putnam's new book, Our Kids, it's more important. So we need to send a message to our charter schools and our district schools that provide full-day kindergarten that we're going to support them, and that we're going to not leave them hanging at half adequacy when they're providing full-day kindergarten. It's not going to get all the way, Mr. President, to provide full adequacy for full-day kindergarten, but it's a step in the right direction. There's no reason that we should be treating full-day kindergarten as half as important as full-day any other grade. There's just no reason. So, Mr. President, this is a step in the right direction, and I respectfully encourage my colleagues to consider voting for floor amendment 2068. Thank you.
Senator Feltus offers floor amendment 2068. Further discussion, Senator Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to Amendment 2068. This amendment spends an additional $2 million from the Education Trust Fund, but it doesn't pay for it. The local school districts are perfectly capable of deciding for themselves whether to offer half-day or full-day kindergarten. The local taxpayers can decide if it's worth the added expense to their town. My friend, the senator from District 15, would like the Senate to make that decision for every school district. Today he's willing to subsidize it, and tomorrow maybe mandate it. We don't need more top-down control over local schools from the Department of Education, and we can't support new spending that hasn't been paid for. So please vote no on this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Reagan. Senator Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, let me thank the Finance Committee for all the work they have done to address adequacy payments for students in our public schools. And you have taken great steps. As you probably know, I have been a long-time supporter of our public charter schools. I think I have visited every single one of them, and they do a terrific job. While I fully can support the CPI to the $2,000 additional allocation that was approved a few years ago because they do not have a tax base. But I struggle with providing any additional allocation until we have fully met adequacy for all of our eligible public schools that are currently not getting that. I look forward to the day when we are able to increase the left side of the adequacy equation, and as the right side, the stabilization grant, is reduced, look to provide support for those communities in the lowest quartile based on a combination of tax base and medium income. And this certainly would include all of our charter schools. I also believe that if a student is a full-day student, that student should receive, that school district should receive full-day adequacy, whether they're in grade kindergarten, grade 6, or grade 12. It doesn't make any difference if they're there all day. This action would not require our school districts to provide full-day kindergarten if locally they chose to maintain a half-day program. But it does say that if a student spends a full day with you, the district is deserving of full-day adequacy. I would remind everyone that all of the research tells us that a full-day kindergarten student is advanced in both social and academic knowledge and skills. This is a move that we need to keep up front on our radar as the stability grants are reduced. Thank you.
Senator Stiles, Senator Kelly.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to speak briefly as a co-sponsor of this floor amendment, and certainly thank my colleague from District 15 for bringing this amendment forward, and truly appreciate the remarks from my good friend from District 24. Just two things. One, the premise of this amendment is that it treats all public school students equally. That's the premise